Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wavelength series. My name is Waveney, and I am your leadership mindset coach. I help you develop self leadership, emotional mastery, and influence. Now, are you ready to get on the same wavelength? Give me a thumbs up. Fabulous, fabulous. So, there comes a time in your leadership when you have to make a decision. You're going to have to decide. And this week, I want to bring this topic to the forefront because it's something that you probably haven't thought about. You're going to have to decide, and the decision isn't going to be when it's convenient for you. It's not going to be when it's comfortable for you. As a matter of fact, it just may be when you least expect it and when it's not comfortable. And it's going to also be maybe not everybody agrees with you as well. You're going to have to decide, and that decision is going to cost you, right? So last week, I sent out a newsletter. I sent out the newsletter, and it was regarding this whole thing in the news about Epstein and the Epstein files. And I sent out my newsletter around that because what I found and what I thought about with regards to that is I looked at it through the lens of leadership. I looked at it from the viewpoint where you have all these powerful people engaging in these types of behaviors. But where my mind started wondering was, what about those people? I wonder if there were people who said no to those invitations. And what happened to them? Like, were they shunned? Were they snubbed? I started imagining that maybe they were, in this particular circle and they just decided, no, I am not going. And I thought about those people because I am sure. And I wondered what happened when they made that decision to say no, right? And so it is through this lens that I want to talk to you today, because our decisions cost us. And this is not something that people talk about, right? When we talk about doing the right thing in leadership, most people make it sound like, yeah, it's a bit challenging, it's all sunshine and roses. At some point, we talk about standing up for what's right, but we never talk about what is the cost, because it costs us. And this is something that, unless you've been in a situation, you probably have not thought about it. You're probably going on your merry way, leading people, enjoying the fact, enjoying your journey. It's coming with challenges. It's okay, you can get over that. But leadership is not developed in moments of comfort. And, this isn't something that's talked about a lot. Leadership isn't developed in moments of comfort. It is developed in moments of discomfort, right? And so doing the right thing comes with consequences. And the real question isn't about whether or not you have values, because we all have values. But the question is, do you know your values well enough to know if you're going to stand by them? Do you know that boundary? And are you willing to pay the price and to face those consequences? And like I mentioned, this week it's a little bit reflective, but I feel like this is important for persons to think about. Because in one way, shape, or form, or one way or the other, or however the phrase is, you're going to run into that moment, or moments rather, where you have to make a decision. And so the first thing, like I mentioned, values are not proven in comfort. Okay? So anyone could say they value integrity. Anyone could say they respect, they respect people. Anyone could say that, their value is fairness, and the list goes on, right? But values are revealed when you are in a position of authority and someone has upset you. What do you do then? Right? You're in that position, somebody has upset you, or they crossed you some time ago, or said whatever. What do you do then? Okay? How do you respond? How do you use your authority and power? Do you retaliate? Do you exclude? What do you do? Okay? Values are not proven in comfort. And so that's something to think about. The other thing is, what about when yours is the only voice in the room? When you are the only voice in the room? I've had that happen to me where I am in the room, and there's this decision, there's this moment, and everybody else is saying no, or everybody else is saying yes, and I am saying no, right? And I can tell you that was a pretty lonely place, but I was so convicted and I was so clear about what I felt was right that I had no choice, right? I had no choice. So what about you? Because there will be moments when everybody sees the issue and nobody has the courage to speak up. Okay? Because these things can isolate you. You can get isolated, and you also can get a target on your back, as we say, right? You also can be singled out, right? If you say that you're courageous, if you say you are brave, when and if that moment comes, what do you do? Okay? At some point, we all have to decide. All right? And then, thirdly, doing the right thing can cost you, right? Like the example I gave before, it cost me. It cost me because I was then singled out. I was then excluded. The narrative was, I am not for, I am against, and I had to really work through that, and I had to be okay with that. And I remember distinctly one night, after I had a conversation with someone about, the situation, and I could tell that they were very scared for me. They were scared for me, and I hung up the phone, and I was scared for myself, right? And I started thinking about doing the right thing, and I said, you know what? If I lose my job because of this, if I lose my job because I did what was right, or I stood for what was right, that I felt like it was the right thing. I know it's not driven by ego. I have nothing to gain from it. If I lose my job from this, I will be okay. The same God that gave me the opportunity is the same God that will give me another one. And instantly, I felt a peace and a calm washing over me. I felt a grounding that came from that. And if you're looking at this and you don't believe in God or you don't believe in a higher power, okay, that's fine. But this is one, and I'm just inserting this is one of the reasons why I feel like being a leader, you need something, you need to be grounded in something greater than yourself. You need to have a spiritual foundation. You need to have a spiritual foundation for those moments when you don't know what's going to happen, for those moments of uncertainty. It helps. There are other tools that I'll share along the way that helps, but having a spiritual foundation, and I believe this with all my heart, having a spiritual foundation helps and it works. And so I was calm after that. I was grounded after that. Did the fear arise after that moment? Of course it did. However, it wasn't as overpowering as it was before. I felt like the phrase said, God's got me, right? And so doing the right thing can cost you. And I really wanted to make this video because, looking at my time, I really wanted to make this video because people are not talking about this. They skim the videos, and granted, I haven't seen all videos all the time everywhere, but people talk about speaking up, having integrity, but it costs you. Sometimes people are working in environments that it will cost them. And so my job today is, I want you to think about the fact that when that moment comes, what will you decide, right? And so it can cost you popularity, it can cost you access, it can cost you favor, it can cost you promotions, it can cost you invitations. I imagine what must it have cost those people who said no to Epstein's invitation? What must it have cost them, right? And of course, they're wealthy or whatever, but you could draw learnings from any situation in life, right? It costs you, but compromising your values, abandoning yourself, abandoning what you know is right, turning your back on your convictions will even cost you something greater. It will cost you your self-respect. It will cost you your inner peace. It will cost you your credibility over time. But most importantly, it will cost you your legacy. It will taint your legacy, right? It will taint your legacy. And one of the things that I have found to be true in my life is when you're going through the moment and you're going through a difficult situation, it is very hard to see sometimes the end result. But when you get on the other side, you feel so good. You feel so proud of yourself. Many times, this is where confidence elevates, right? Sometimes confidence isn't just about getting that additional certification or learning how to do this report in Excel or mastering AI. Many times, confidence is born out of our ability to looking back, get on the other side and coming out of a situation and knowing we did the right thing and feeling so wonderful about ourselves because we know it was not difficult, right? And so here's the thing, you might win short-term approval if you choose to abandon your ideals and your values and your principles, but you lose long-term authority, right? So which is it, short-term approval or long-term authority, right? And so these are some things that I want you to think about. As you can tell, this episode is a bit somber, it's a bit reflective, and I really want you to think about it and then decide before the moment arrives. Decide what you're going to do when the moment arrives. If you wait until the pressure hits you, it's too late. If you wait until certain situations happen to decide how you're going to act or decide who you're going to be, then it's going to be too late. You have to decide who you are, what you stand for. Okay? Because when you are in those moments, and I'm going back to the story that I gave about myself, it was very easy to be in that room and just raise my hands like the others. It would have been very easy to do that, but I couldn't. I am very clear on certain things, right? You get to decide what type of leader you are and how you show up. But it's important to think about when those moments of reckoning come, when those situations pop up, who are you choosing to be in those moments? That is the question you need to answer. All right. And so I want to leave you with, let me see. I have some notes here. If you see me looking down, I want to leave you with 2 questions. I want you to think about all that I've said, and I want to leave you with 2 questions. Okay? And maybe you haven't up to this point thought about it. Maybe you sort of know, but you haven't really thought about it. Maybe it popped up fleetingly. But what are your top 3 leadership values? What are your top 3 leadership values? Do you know what they are? If not, you need to think about it. Another way to ask that question is, what's important to you? What's important to you within the context of leadership? And then here's the other question. Out of all these values that you said that were important to you, that you said are your top 3 leadership values, ask yourself, what would have to happen that would make you abandon them? All those 3 values that you listed, what would have to happen for you to abandon those values? Right? And that's a powerful question because it will tell you, it gives you what your boundary is. Right? I remember when I was asked that question in a particular, not along the lines of leadership, but I was asked that question and I said, God will have to come down and tell me blah, 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 right? And that was my boundary. So my boundary was very clear. But this is a great question to ask yourself. What would have to happen for you to abandon those values? And that answer will help you to understand where your boundary is. It will help you in terms of strengthening. Maybe there was something that you didn't think about. It's going to help you with that. It's going to help you to understand what will happen when that moment comes, when you have to decide. And so the moment will come when you have to decide. And when that moment comes, it's not going to be about strategy. It's not going to be about anything other than your identity. Who are you being? Who are you as a leader? That is what that moment will reveal. All right. So think about it. Send me your DMs. Send me your DMs on this. Let me know what you think. Let me know how deep you went with this sort of reflective type of these types of questions. I would love to hear from you, and I will see you on another wavelength. And also remember, if there's a topic that you want me to speak on, or maybe a question that you have, I would be more than happy to address it in this forum. Until next time, I will talk to you on another wavelength series.